Hey, y'all. Welcome to episode a lot of Gabfocus.
I don't even know a number.
I know. We've just been cranking them away, but we're excited to have y'all here. This is our annual software session. This is going to be, thank you, Garrett, episode 63. But this is our annual software session, and this is a great one. Melissa and I worked together to come up with, honestly, four of the top software providers in our industry. During lobby talk, Melissa and I were just talking like, there's a lot of choice now, right? I mean, honestly, just 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there wasn't as many choice. And now there's a lot of viable options, and we're stoked to have all these wonderful speakers. But Melissa, how are things in your world?
Great. I have two kids off to college as of last Friday. It was successful, and I've already converted one bedroom to an office. So,
If you're listening, Logan.
sorry, Logan.
We're already doing activities.
Yeah.
But y'all, we're super stoked to have these panelists. We've got, like I said, four of the top software companies represented here today. So from left to right, I'd love to introduce my speakers. Jason, Chief Product Officer of Storable. Welcome to the panel, my friend.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Carlsbad, California, just north of San Diego.
Very nice. And how long have you been in the storage biz?
I've been in the storage business 9 months now. I joined Storable about 9 months ago.
We're glad to have you here, man. Storable, of course, is a mainstay in our industry. It's hard to not know who Storable is, or at least experience Storable in some way. And glad to have you all represent, and welcome to the stage. And then to Jason's right is Alyssa Winkleman, fresh new aunt. Welcome to the stage, Alyssa. How you been?
Good. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks for having us. Thanks for always bringing the energy and the fun to self-storage. Super excited to be a part of this.
Glad to have you here. So with Six Storage, how long has Six Storage been in the industry?
For quite a long time. Originally founded in Europe, but we've been here in the US for quite a few years now. So yeah.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you here. And then next up is Jack. I don't want to mess up your name, my friend. Jack, welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you all.
We're really glad to have you here, man. So you've been with Storganize for kind of 1 or 2 years, depending how you measure it,
Yeah.
leading the head of sales over there. But we're glad to have you here. How long has Storganize been involved with self-storage?
Yeah, so I guess inception was around 2015. So we're coming up to our 10-year anniversary. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
wild,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
wake
it's
up,
crazy.
you blink, and a decade has passed by. Like that's
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
congrats to you all. I mean, that shows that y'all are doing something really awesome. So
Thanks.
glad to have you here as well, Jack. And then last but definitely not least, my dear friend Steve Smith, president of Storage Commander. Steve, how in the world are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having us, Tony. I appreciate it.
No, we wouldn't have this panel without Storage Commander. So
Wow.
thank you for being here. It's going to be a great session. Like Melissa was saying earlier, like the agenda is packed. We got a lot of topics to get to. We got 4 speakers. It's just a lot. So let me jump through these slides real quick. Gabfocus, of course, is brought to you by our teams here at Lighthouse Storage Solutions. That's Melissa and Josh. And then my team here in Knoxville with Storage Pug. Thank you for everyone behind the scenes for making this so much easier for Melissa and myself. Gabfocus, if this is your first session, welcome. I think you really chose a fun one. We're going to go for about an hour. It's a Q&A setup. So Melissa and I get to take turn asking all the questions, including your questions. So if you do have a great question, post it in the Q&A, and we'll ask not only our prepared questions, we'll ask the questions from the audience. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about the current state of storage software. Like I already said, I mean, 2024 already looks so much different than 2020 when it comes to self-storage software. We're going to talk about how you can find the right fit as a storage operator, big and small. And then we're going to talk about the future a little bit. We're going to dream a little bit. What's the future of storage software? What does that look like? What's in the pipeline? We might even hear from our panel here, like, hey, what's some secret fun stuff that they're working on to help the industry do better? So, Melissa, are we ready?
I think so.
Let's jump right in.
Well, my computer, oh, there we go. All right, so let's talk about trends first of all, just to get this ball rolling. What are some of the big tech and software trends that you've seen emerge in the storage industry in these last couple of years? Because we know in the last 4 years, it has been insane for technology. So let's talk about that.
I would say just automation and centralization. I think there's and a lot of operators are looking for kind of all in one kind of software platform or partnerships. And you kind of touched on earlier, Melissa, about freedom of choice, the partnerships and integration side of things. But I see a lot in just the automation in the last few years about, around automation, centralization. Some of the key things I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think I can build on that. I mean, what I tend to see is as we start to look at the whole tenant lifecycle and bringing a suite of solutions together, and how we now with a consolidated database data structure can apply automation in ways that we haven't been able to before, deliver intelligence because we can see holistically through that tenant lifecycle. We can automate that experience, improve that overall experience, but also then use data and analytics in ways that we haven't in the past to be able to optimize both the tenant experience and the business.
That's killer. Yeah. So I'm gonna bookmark some terms that I know we're gonna dive deeper into later, right? So of course, automation is gonna come up multiple times throughout this session. I
Yeah.
love the tenant lifecycle. I think bringing that up at this early on, I think is a really key and critical. I think it sets the right tone for this conversation, right? Because like software is cool and all, but the buttons don't mean anything unless they're taking care of the audience and not only the owners, but ultimately the end user, the tenants who store. So I love that. So Alyssa and Jack, same question to you all. Like, what are some of the big tech and software trends that you've seen emerge in our industry in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I was right there with them, like just being able to having the data to understand who your tenants are. That never existed before, right? People showed up, they bought a lock, they moved their stuff in. But with all of this technology and all the different vendors that we see out there, they all just help us garner a better understanding of who it is that rents with us, so that we can cater to them better.
Yeah, and I think unmanned facilities, is definitely like the automation part of that is key. And then I think what we've started to see more of is a shift of like this kind of customer centric look at, the online booking portal, for example. It's actually putting your customers or getting into the seat of the customer experience more so than, what's it like as an operator to operate. It's like at the end of the day, you have to service your customers. So what's their experience online, and how can you learn from other platforms out there, that are kind of doing something similar, right, in terms of online booking and customer experience. So that's kind of, we're seeing more of like a customer centric look at designing software,
Yeah.
starting from there first and then working backwards.
Well, Jack, we'll stay with you. I mean, so you mentioned the booking portal, right? Booking engine. You mentioned unmanned facilities. Like, what are some of the bigger like tech advances, right, or innovations, I should say, right? Like that we've seen in storage software over the last couple of years. And I think like for the context of this crowd, right? I mean, we can talk pre-COVID and post-COVID, right? Like since 2020, what have you seen in our industry as far as like some of the cooler innovations or advances that we've seen in specifically in self-storage software?
Yeah, so I think the integrations piece is really key. I think when it's important to like like we've said before, providing that choice to the customers and the operators as well, to be able to search for different providers, suppliers, and be able to shop around and say, I would quite like to have this manufacturer from Taiwan doing my CCTV camera. I want that to integrate with my POS system at a kiosk. That's where we're starting to see more flexibility in software, I think. And through that, it provides more choice, I think, to operators to reduce cost, but also find the best solutions out there globally.
All right, so let's just talk about the daunting task of actually choosing the software. We kind of talked about this a few minutes ago in the lobby talk for anyone that was here. What are the main factors that an operator should consider when they're choosing their software? When they're asking those questions and talking to you guys about demos and that sort of thing, what kind of things should they be asking about?
I would just start with just kind of what just touched on a minute ago, it's tenant experience, right? And also the user experience that's using the software. I think those are critical, and you want to have something that's going to be easy for those tenants to rent the unit. So I'd probably key on that. Also, integration needs, which I already touched on, right, as well. And then also working with a software solution that's scalable as well. As you grow, you can actually, the software can actually grow with you. So.
Yeah, and I think just like, how involved do they want to be in their operations? Of course, like there are tons of people who want to automate and run it as unmanned as possible, but there are also still operators out there that want to be really involved. So will your software work for both scenarios, where you can truly run your business however you want? And again, tying back to those integrations, can you pick and choose what you want? And like Steve said, the all-in-one is a great option too. So do you have kind of both options? I can get everything I want in one place, or I have the freedom to choose. I just think it's really important that we give our customers the option to run their business how they want, but also the tools to do it with us if they want to entirely as well.
That's killer. I mean, Jason, same question to you. Like, so how, what factors should a self-storage operator consider as they're looking at all the different options out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, as you look at the end-to-end solution, it's, how do you optimize that tenant lifecycle? And today there's expanding options in terms of how tenants want to interact with you as a company. And so whether that's online or in the facility, there's the flexibility to be able to optimize that tenant experience. It's continuing. We've seen kind of the trends kind of flatten in terms of demand in the market. And so it becomes incredibly important that you're out in front of those customers, you're showing up and interacting with them in a way that they want to interact with you, whether that's online or in the facility, and then how that experience is all the way through to move out. And so having that seamless experience is going to result in those great reviews that those consumers are going to see online and result in repeat business. And so we want to make sure that we're maximizing that tenant experience. On the flip side, ensuring, and I think, we talked about, Alyssa and Steve both talked about, from an operator experience, how do you ensure that you're picking a solution that's adapting to your business and configurable so that you can leverage it and gain adoption without having to shift your business to work the way that the software wants you to work. And so I think that's an incredible, a key part of that. The other piece that we're continuing to see that we have to pay a lot of attention to is there's increasing number of compliance issues that are happening in the market. And so the most recent in California with fees regulations, you want to make sure that you're picking a vendor that's supporting your ability to deal with those compliance issues as they start to come up. And so that's another critical component.
I think we see that a lot from the associations are pushing that as well, depending on the region, but also around Europe as well. They'll make it a mandate, right? You have to have an ID verification in the UK now. It's if you're a part of the association.
Right.
So that kind of drives software within that region to make that an absolute requirement. And that kind of pushes a feature set of the software sometimes.
Yeah, but as you brought up, then there's a compliance piece of it, because then as you're dealing in the UK with the privacy laws in the UK of checking ID, there's
who stores that data?
Where are you storing it and how are you complying with those pieces of it? Yeah, so it's there's a lot of nuance there to deal with for sure.
So really, the way an operator chooses to run their business is really going to play a factor in what those key pieces are that they're looking for that software to do. But how do you identify and prioritize the software features that matter most to your facility? Can you guys talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, just understanding what their pain points are. Like the question that sort of started this all off is just understanding, like, what are you struggling with right now that maybe we can help you with, and really just hearing them out, and then helping address each of those things that will make their life and running their business easier.
Well, one thing I see a lot is I speak to operators and maybe they don't necessarily know they've got a problem sometimes. So it's kind of, they don't necessarily know what the future software looks like. So it's a bit of an education piece to kind of help them highlight, okay, what kind of processes are you doing manually right now? How much time does that take? And then sort of demonstrate how much time they could save if you were to automate just that one line of, that workflow. And then you sort of take the conversation from there, because you can start to prioritize which features are, mission critical, and then which features are maybe nice to haves, and then you kind of list out the mission critical ones. You want to find a software that can at least tick those boxes, and then the nice to haves can be taken or leaving.
Yeah, I think it's both understanding their operation and asking those questions, and then their market, right? Because there's the nuances of where they're at, their location. Is it a highly competitive market? What are the types of tenants that you get? All of those, qualifying questions are really there to understand. Maybe you're storing RVs and boats, and you're near there are all those pieces of understanding their business first that then lead to the pain points, that then lead to kind of what are the disparate systems or processes that you're using today that are causing those pain points. And then after you have a good understanding of their business and their market, talking about each of back to that tenant life cycle, each of those different pieces and how we can help deliver greater value to them. So I think that's it's starting out asking all those good questions to better understand their market and their operation is the key place to start before you start prescribing kind of what the solution is going to be.
And don't forget too, if you're an operator, also consider what your management team is going through. What are their pain points? Not only what are the customers' pain points and how can you make that experience better, but how can you make the management team's experience better? Because you could be causing a lot of extra work because you've got a tech stack that's not working right together and it's creating more manual steps than's necessary. So
I love that. Now, Jason, you said something I thought was really neat and interesting is like there's a compliance piece to it now, right? Like there's been more eyeballs in our industry, more regulation. So like as someone who may not know to ask those questions, like what questions should someone who's looking for software ask? Like what are the top 3 questions that someone should be asking their prospective software vendor?
Well, I think some of the key questions are asked are in terms of security and compliance, right? Because now you as an operator, especially if you start to collect things like driver's license and personal information, where is that being stored? How secure is it? Talk to me about the back end in terms of how is my credit card information that I'm being stored secured? There's a lot as we move towards 2025 PCIA compliance. How are you, and if you're storing credit card information, how are you dealing with multi-factor authentication and the requirements that come with that? There's a lot that's happening as businesses where we're collecting credit card information or collecting personal information that you need to understand for the markets that you're operating. What are the things that you're expected to be in compliance with? And those are key questions. We provide some guidance to our customers and people that we work with in terms of here's the latest things that are coming down that we need to make sure that we're working together to ensure we're complying with. And it's not just us as the software vendor. We try and work with our customers to understand here are the operational processes that you may want to consider to help secure your facility. Because it's, bad actors are out there and they're continuing to be more vigilant in how they're trying to get access to that data.
Steve, same question to you. What are the questions you're recommending that operators ask before they decide on what software they need?
Yeah, obviously, the first reiterate what's been kind of spoken about, which is, of course, identifying the core needs of customer and customer feedback. But on the regulation side, to touch on that a bit, secure data security is something that gets brought up quite often, and even recently as some of the recent hacks out there, it's a key important thing that's part of our daily lives. So understanding what that company has done to harden their systems to make it more difficult to get access to that data. Credit card, for example, on our side, we never store raw credit card data. It's all tokenized data. So we get ourselves kind of out of that. We're also fully integrated with our parent company, Fullsteam, which is a credit card processing company. But we have that kind of built in, right? And it's that mindset as the company, as part of a larger company that's very security conscious around credit card data, right? And so we've always taken the approach, and also we have invested a lot of money in the last couple of years in improving our security into our systems. But it's important. Those are great questions to ask for any operator, size of operator, is how can you ensure that data is going to be secure and safe from not just my team accessing it, but also my tenants, who would be deeply impacted if there was ever a leak.
No, that's all good advice, y'all. Well, now, Melissa, I guess we should probably define software, right? Like, well, in the context of
Yeah.
this conversation, what is software? We keep using it, but like, what does that mean for this panel?
Do you guys want to
Yeah, does
take
someone
that? So we're talking about the actual management software. I'll answer this question. We're talking about the actual management software that you guys are using, whether it would be SiteLink or Six Storage or Storage Commander, web self-storage, whatever it is that is talking to all of your other technology and that is being used to process your payments, to rent those units, to track everything that goes on from a business standpoint. And some of them do more than others. So we've got, did you see some of the Q&A that's come up?
I did. I think Garrett, you have let's start there. I mean, this is a really solid
Yes.
question. So Garrett, thank you for asking the question. So this was back to, I think, Jack, you were speaking earlier. So the question is like a main question, hoping that the speakers can cover is, who has the most centralized facility software management when it comes to management, websites, call centers, everything that communicates with each other? Like, this is of course not a sales pitch, but we would love to be educated, right? Like, what part of the it's like, what options are out there when it comes to software that can cover and be as comprehensive as the management, the facility management, the tenant management, your marketing, your website, your call center? Talk to us through that and try to, I know it may be hard, but try to do this not in a way that you're trying to sell to me. Just educate me.
I can start if I can.
Garrett, I hope you're not a secret agent.
I would say that if majority, if not all of us, have integrations to each of those platforms that help, the full solution, right? And offer, tighter integration with all the partners, and the majority of the partners that are out there, and also emerging partners as well. So I would say that the choices are there. While there are a lot of choices out there, I think that having the freedom of choice and having the ability to choose the vendors that you want to work with is a win, and for our operators. But I'll let anyone else want to take over from there.
Steve, thanks for starting us off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think from our standpoint, we've gone through the last few years and brought together several different, whether it's FMS software, and we recently announced a couple months ago we acquired storageauctions.com, and our focus is on two components. One is to have on our platform having a moving towards a common platform across all of our different products, so that it makes it seamless for customers to move from one product to another, but also have a set of services that work well together across the different products. So if you're using Call Potential and you're using SiteLink or you're using Storage, that the data flows between those two, and we're moving more and more towards common services across those applications, so it makes it easier for you as customers to use those. That being said, if you have other software packages that you prefer, we're continuing to build more and more services layers so that you can connect those different services together and leverage those that you want to, whether it's you're using StoragePug websites or our websites or building your own websites, that we have as common experience as we can as we move forward with that. But the intent is to, at the end of the day, have a strong data platform and workflow that allows us to connect all those disparate services together.
That's killer. Jack and Alyssa, same question to you two real quick, if you want to jump in there.
Yeah. I think it's awesome, kind of how we talked about in the beginning of how many options there are now for operators out there. And obviously all of those softwares have different levels of total number of integrations and features and that sort of thing. But, to Jason's point, it's, do they have what I need? And then if they have what I need, is it pretty easy to toggle between, if I am choosing some outside vendors and some inside vendors, is it overall just a very cohesive and user-friendly experience when all those are pulled together? I think that's a really key piece as well.
And that's where the usability of the management team really comes into play. So for sure. Jack, did you have anything to add on that one?
Just I think we made quite an early kind of technological decision to have an open API, an open infrastructure. So we've just kind of releasing an add-ons marketplace, and essentially the approach we've taken is you could connect your Storganized PMS with through Zapier, thousands of applications, or through or any particular system that you feel that you've got. The idea would be to kind of just you go onto the tiles and just sort of pick the ones that kind of match your business to kind of keep it as open as possible. And that's kind of, I think that's kind of the approach we've taken to sort of, again, make it no code or low code, so you don't have to rely on developer resource.
So just to do one more of the Q&A that's coming in, Craig and Rachel have both voiced a common complaint that I hear a lot as well, and it's about credit card processing. The software companies that require that certain credit, that use their in-house credit card processing, that can be frustrating because they feel like they can find better solutions cheaper somewhere else. So can you guys speak to why that would be an issue and why you maybe run it the way you do? Why, if you do require that the customer use your credit card processing, why is that? Is there a compliance issue that you're trying to fix? Is it just ease of use? What is that? What's that about?
I can start on that. So for us, it's actually never been an issue regarding price, right? So I think we've always been able to provide the best possible price for our customers to use our credit card processing. Our parent company is a credit card processing company, so there are reasons why we don't allow currently other credit card processing companies. But I think we add much more additional value by having everything fully integrated, so that I can completely audit do all my reconciliation within one product, rather than having to do direct reconciliation twice, once within the software and once with the credit card processor. So that's all I have to say for that.
Okay.
Anyone else have a take on credit card processing?
Yeah, for us, it's dependent on the solution, but for us, as we look at, we certainly have customers who are using different credit card processors, but predominantly just as Steve had talked about, in order to be able to have the strong functionality to manage chargebacks and do reconciliation and accounting, all of that needs to be well integrated to make that easy. And so for most customers, having that capability to have that auto reconciliation and the management, and especially as you're looking at the first of the month processing where we're managing millions of transactions, that having that functionality to be able to efficiently and effectively go through that billing cycle and have it flow through to accounting, there's a lot of moving pieces with that. And so yes, there's a desire potentially to go to another processing company, but all of that integration with the FMS and with the accounting is a lot of the value that comes from being able to know which credit card processing that you're integrated with.
I think that's helpful to know. As the user, sometimes we don't see the backside of how all these things work. We just know that they do. And so it's good to have an explanation from you guys on why sometimes.
I'm sure Steve would agree. There's a lot underneath the covers that we have to deal with to make sure that it doesn't present itself in front of the customer, and make sure that's as seamless for them as possible.
So it's not as easy as just swiping that card and it just works magically.
It works and it charges and it successfully goes through. Yeah, there's a lot that we do and a lot of logic that we write into the system to make sure that we're processing those in an effective and efficient way, and that it doesn't load more, challenges on your team.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So that 2.9% or whatever people are charging goes towards something. Yeah, I saw the comment, Gary. I mean, it's a cute comment, but you're right. I mean, and part of it, I'm sure, it is a revenue stream for software companies. But I think also, I think to Jason's point and credit, I think there's a lot of back end processing to make sure everything kind of just works and is secure. I imagine is a big part of that too. But I do want to great questions, by the way, y'all. Keep those coming. I know there are a few more in the Q&A. We'll load those up in a minute, but I want to back up more 10,000 foot view real quick before we get more in the weeds. And that's and Garrett's question kind of is a good segue. There's like, break down the typical operator's tech stack, right? If I own, I mean, we're running the poll right now, right? 44% of the audience members own between 2 to 10 facilities. So they represent our typical owner today. So if I own 2 to 10 facilities, like, what should my typical tech stack software, what should it be composed of?
I could take this one, I guess. And when you say, just to define tech stack, are you talking, like actual systems, or like the actual language that these systems are written in?
Yeah, okay, don't go that high. Yeah, go the actual systems. Yeah, we can talk about Node and Java and all that kind of
That's
stuff.
it. Yeah, let's not do that. So
that's a great question. I love that.
So I think just from our perspective, it is interesting because we kind of brand agnostic, I would say. So we through the open API, we put we work on running a PMS specifically for your self-storage business, automating your daily operations. That's kind of our focus. If you need a CRM, there are loads of really good CRMs out there that you can easily connect. We don't want to step too much into that space because we're kind of sticking in our lane almost. So similar to the payment providers, if there's a Stripe or if there's another payment provider that you feel that you can get a good service with, you connect it. So I think for us, payments, access control, PMS, and then some kind of accounting, having them, that would be for me the most common questions I get asked. And now more so, we're getting more kind of data, Power BI, what kind of business intelligence, and that can be also sort of integrated in there as well.
That's awesome. Steve, same question to you. What's the typical combination of softwares that our typical audience members should have or should explore at their facilities?
Yeah, I think what was just touched on is right on, but I would probably just add also, having something with tight integration with the marketing services partner, making sure that you have a really good way to generate those leads for tenant leads as well. But yeah, all the core systems, managed software, payment processing, tenant insurance protection, security, all those are part of the core. And then in addition to that, having some of these other ancillary offerings and services would be key to look at as well.
Yeah. Jason, same question to you with
I mean, I think it depends on the size and scope of the facility. Certainly we have, within our ecosystem, ensuring that you've got you're driving leads and demand that's coming in, and it's going to come in through a couple of different channels. And so we think about depending on the size and scope of the customer, kind of what's their occupancy rate and how do we drive the performance around that. Then it's the managing the operation. So once the tenant shows up, what does it take to manage that operation? And that's the facility management software. It could be is you're closing that lead, converting that lead, the CRM, whether that's you're using kind of the base functionality that's in the FMS, or you're a larger operation and you want something like call potential that's going to manage that tenant lifecycle from the time that they're calling in as a lead all the way through that lifecycle and delinquency management, for example. What are that lifestyle of that customer, right? And then as they're exiting, I think Jack brought up a good point around business intelligence. I think that's been a huge focus this last year, and will be I predict is going to continue to be a huge focus for the next few years of how do I maximize that life cycle, and how do I maximize my operating and performance metrics. And there's a huge opportunity for us now as we bring all that information together to be able to apply intelligence to understand what marketing channels are performing best for me, how can I convert those leads more effectively? Is it through the call center? Is it through the online move-in process? How do I ensure that then that experience is good all the way through? And what's the value of that tenant as they're moving in the facility that's coming from these different location, marketing channels. So there's just a lot of opportunity for performance improvement as we look at across that ecosystem.
That's really cool. Yeah. Alyssa, anything you'd add? I know it's a pretty comprehensive answer so far, but what's the typical software stack that our operators should be focusing on here?
Yeah, I think they pretty much covered everything. Obviously, kind of what Jason said, it depends on how big the operators are, but of course, call centers are big for those larger operators too, and automating the auction process and that sort of thing also. But yeah, software, website, gate, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Always very important also.
To quote the one and only Jane Sauls, she said it here on Gabfocus, and we actually had her come to our office I think it was last summer, and she said the holy trinity in self-storage software is your facility management software, your gate access control software, and your marketing website software. All three of those have to be totally interconnected. And I think it touches on what all four of y'all have said. It's like they all, if those three things aren't part of your core functionalities at your facility, then you're leaving either money on the table or you just don't have a really great tenant experience. And none of those things are good. So thanks for sharing that with us.
All right, guys. So break this down in just the simplest of lists. Okay. What should good storage software do at its basics? What should it do?
Streamline, streamline operations, improve the user tenant experience, facilitate extra integrations. That's where I'd start. Anyone
Yeah,
else?
I think like just simplifying your life. I think it was Jack that said, how much time are you spending doing X? And can we help you spend less time doing that so you can do more time building your business, spending time with your family, these sorts of things. I think, yeah, for me, it's what can we do to reduce the time that they spend doing manual work?
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd add, how do you ensure you're driving performance? So there's certainly, making sure that we're automating those processes, but the system itself should be smart enough that's helping you understand how to drive better performance out of the system as well. So automation, but then also operations improvement, right? So how do you know that? How can you drive more efficiency into the business itself, regardless of the size, right? Because there's lots of different sizes.
I would just add into that mix reliability, sort of uptime and security there. Obviously, we've talked about, but yeah, I think like scalability, reliability, and sort of flexibility would be my sort of three pillars. And yeah, and we haven't touched so much on customer support as well. I think it's really important to have a provider that you don't necessarily want to use customer support, but we do see that like it's a new system, and starting off with a new system can be scary, can be hard at times. There's a learning curve, and you want to find a partner and a software provider that's going to be there along the road and has that education, the academy, the videos, the support that's going to help guide you into kind of upskilling onto a new platform.
Right. Because the best software doesn't really work well if your managers don't know how to use it.
Straight facts. Well, y'all, so talk to us. I mean, shifting gears more towards like the tenant experience side, right? So like when it comes to online rental capabilities or online bookings, Jack, I'll start with you since you brought this topic to us at the top of the call. So like what online rental capabilities matter most, right? When it comes to renting online for self-storage. And then for context for the folks in this audience, like many of y'all, I know I see some names of y'all been in the industry for 10, 20, 30 years. There are some that have just joined us. Welcome, by the way, right? And I don't want to say that you're taking it for granted, but like some of y'all just probably thought that we've always had online rentals.
Relatively new.
Yeah, if you only knew, right? Like Storage Pug has been around since 2017, for example. And when we discovered self-storage, less than 10% of facilities were doing anything online. Now that number is completely flipped on its head. It's probably closer to 90% that are doing things online now. So, but that said, Jack, like which capabilities, in your opinion, are the most important or the ones that impact that tenant experience the most?
Oh, So it obviously, I don't want to sound like a consultant, but it does depend, right, on what the, obviously we all want to drive
Send me
occupancy.
your bill. I'll go ahead and Venmo you.
We want to drive occupancy, right? But we also want to have a good customer experience. So I think simplicity is key. And it's really interesting to look at other industries that are e-commerce industries, verticals that are, like airline bookings, hotel booking platforms, people that are really kind of pushing that kind of that urgency to get the sale as well. I think it's quite important for the operator perspective. But then also, we have to look at the generational shift, right? I mean, who are going to be booking self-storage boxes, facilities, units within the next 10 years? They're going to be on their mobile, they're going to be expecting a certain type of experience online. So I think it's important to kind of review that and find a software and feature set that's going to give them those options, right?
Yeah, I think as we look at the online move-in workflow and how I think one of the things that is interesting as you map that out is you've got an experience that can start on the website and then it can end up in the call center. You've got an experience that can start on the website and then end up in the facility, and ensuring that whatever that experience, whether the tenant is going all the way through that workflow online or they're going through the call center, understanding what that conversion looks like and ensuring that that customer has a strong experience all the way through. And so it gets back into ensuring your inventory is synced up, ensuring that you're able to merchandise and market your facility well through that online move-in process. And then as you're doing conversion funnel tracking to understand how they're converting and seeing where people are dropping off, that you've got the ability to customize that experience to be able to address that information to optimize that experience. And so the more hard-coded it is, it's the harder it is for you to make sure that you're maximizing that experience. And so I know not to sound like an ad, but as we introduced tiered pricing here a few months ago, being able to have good, better, best, and be able to communicate with the customer or the prospect on the website to be able to understand and what units might best fit their needs. Those are some of the things that make sure that experience is good and that they're getting the right unit that they're going to be most happy with.
To that point, do you think selecting specific units is a key and critical component of self-storage rental software, or do you think it's more so about selecting the type or the tier of unit?
I mean, I think it's both. One, understanding what you're trying to store, understanding, giving them the option if you're charging a little bit more because it's close to the elevator or it's climate controlled, and making sure that you have those options to be able to merchandise that unit to be able to maximize the space. I was looking at reports yesterday, and we did our webinar yesterday for our install base, and we were talking about just the continued growth in climate controlled units. And so we're seeing that continued growth, and we know that that's a feature that's important to a lot of customers. And so making sure that as they're going through that online process, it's not just, hey, I'm renting a 5x10. It's, I want a 5x10, I want it close to the elevator, and I want it climate controlled, that you're giving them those options so that experience is seamless. Because if they have in their mind, they want a climate controlled unit and they're going through one website process versus another, and you have that option, they're going to feel much more comfortable checking out, knowing that they're getting what they want.
I think the consumer is also really spoiled when it comes to the checkout process.
Yes.
Like me, I love the buy now with one click on Amazon. Oh my goodness. And I know there's so many different pieces to the storage contract. Like we've got the tenant insurance and collecting the driver's license and selecting the unit that you want and good, better, best, all that. There's a lot of things that go into it. Which if you had to pick, what do you see in operators that they are really saying, I need these things to happen for my tenants? Is there certain aspects of that really are standing out that you're having to meet?
They want all of that.
Right. To work with a one click.
Yeah, they want the experience I could check out quickly. But I think by and large, they want to make sure the customer is getting the right unit. So being able to display and give them those choices and say, yep, I want that one, and being able to check out easily and quickly is key. But I think they don't necessarily want to skip. you know, we want to make sure that they're getting the insurance, that they're getting the additional add-ons that we want to put in front of them. So I think that's a key piece of that too.
No, that makes sense. I mean, TikTok makes buying easy. My wife is a TikTok shopper. So in the middle of the night, she's feeding our newborn TikTok, right? And
Oh
then
no.
you know, and and Shopify has made online shopping easy for, you know, mom and pop stores, and Apple Pay's integrated now, right? Shop Pay and Apple Pay. And so you literally click one button and it will be here tomorrow kind of scenario. So like you said, like Melissa, we are all spoiled. We're all those kinds of consumers, and self-storage shoppers are very much, we're all self-storage shoppers. We're all the same person. But Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add just that, you know, just making it, recapturing those leads that fall off, get busy, get interrupted by buying something on Amazon or TikTok. But, you know, just being able to recapture those leads quickly, right? And to be able to convert them to rentals is important, and having solution in place that offers that is key too.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
killer. Well, we're only less than halfway through the agenda, y'all. So what I'd love to do is this. We've got some killer Q&A that's still open. Melissa, how about we do that, and then go to question of the week, and then maybe talk about a pop-up episode or maybe a podcast episode for the remaining questions. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. So unfortunately, when I lost connection earlier, I lost all the questions, so I can't see the Q&As.
Okay,
I can see the last two that came in, but that's
I got you.
It all disappeared.
I got you. All right. So Garrett is asking, oh, this is interesting. This is a software conversation, but he asked about hardware. So thoughts on kiosks? I mean, technically kiosks do run software. And at minimum, they integrate with software, right? So thoughts on kiosks? Is it still worth the hardware costs and the monthly service fees to have a virtual employee? Thoughts and any hot takes on kiosk software?
I would say that there's, you know, those are solid options, but there are other options for operators besides kiosks, right? And we've seen that even since COVID, how that resurgence, even the QR code, has prompted us to kind of move in a different direction within the software. So
Yeah, I think for me too, it comes down to like what your area that your facility in needs, you know, what's the demographic of the people there? Have you found that these are people who work better with an actual physical piece of hardware in front of them that they can go through the motions of, or because, you know, to Steve's point, QR codes are so easy to scan nowadays, like, you know, can you just put a QR code on your door and you're not there and say, make a payment by scanning this or rent a unit by scanning that? It is a lot easier now, but there are still, depending on, you know, where you are geographically and who lives in your communities, potentially people who prefer an actual physical piece of hardware that they can walk up to and use that way.
Yeah, that's a killer take. Any other hot takes on kiosks?
last thing I would say is that I think that if you look at, we're looking at emergency or new vendors within our space, I think LiveSwitch is a good option there for text message to video call. So it might be another solution, or if those tenants have questions on site, it might be something else to look at.
I love that you share that. We'll share LiveSwitch in the chat
Yeah.
here. We'll include it in the resources and on the show notes, because I think they're a cool software. I'd love to see more people use them. And so Steve, can you give like the 30? I know you don't represent LiveSwitch, but can you give a 30-second summary of what these guys do?
Well, hopefully I don't mess it up too bad, James, but just really it offers the ability for to text message either like a site manager on site have questions about their unit. It also allows them to maybe have questions. Maybe they're just wanting to rent a unit. They see the QR code to rent the unit, but they have questions about the process. So it gives a really quick way for them to connect with those site managers or district managers, whoever is on that list.
I love that. Love that. So yeah, so check it out. It's a really, really kind of neat little tool. And then Jamie, in response to Garrett's question about kiosks, Jamie said that in her market, at least, they no longer supports the need or want for kiosks. Online payments and auto pay is more convenient. We now have beautiful shutters covering the once used kiosks. So that's Jamie's take. Thank you for sharing. This was Jason. This might be directed specifically to Storable. But when is the good, better, best pricing coming out for y'all's, I guess, online rental experience?
Yeah, so tiered pricing was released a couple months ago. So we went through, reviewed it in our webcast yesterday. So if you log in to Storable, it's linked from our website, or in the product itself, you can link to yesterday's webcast. We kind of walk through tiered pricing. You're welcome to reach out to me, jason.palmer@storable.com, and I can point you to the right resources. But it's, we've been able to, we've integrated tiered pricing, so it goes all the way from our FMS software integrated with Sparefoot, our marketplace, as well as our websites. And so that functionality, as we release it across, so you can use get good, better, best tiered pricing, and continue to love to get feedback on how we can improve that. But we think it's a key part of being able to digitally merchandise your services better.
I love that. So thank you, Jason, for the specifics there. Melissa,
Yeah.
do you want to ask the questions that you can see?
Well, I mean, yeah, I was going to say some of them did pop up. So this one is about integration with accounting software, which I
Ooh.
think is a really hot button topic for a lot of people. And this is coming from Lisa. Do you foresee daily integration coming that will download daily transaction deposits into the accounting software? Unless she's overlooking it, they're having to manually enter all their daily deposit transactions in order to account for those funds and reconcile. So can y'all talk about that?
Yeah, we get asked about that a lot in our demos and our meetings. And I do think that that's something that should be done. It is just an extra sort of, when we talk about what are the manual steps, having to download those reports every day and re-upload and that sort of thing. And so I think it's definitely something that, we should all move towards is streamlining that, where it can push directly into the different accounting softwares that people choose.
Is that the problem, where there's so many different accounting softwares that a customer can choose? Is that what the hang up is with having software communicate with that kind of thing? I'm not a software person. I mean, I've had tech issues today. Okay. So can you just explain why that's an issue with some of these softwares?
Think it sometimes depends on the type of accounting software. So if they've got it, so if you have an API or an open API, then it's quite easy to kind of open up the bonnet of the software and kind of connect the pieces together. But so QuickBooks, for example, we're this add-ons marketplace that I mentioned earlier, you'll be able to just click on a QuickBooks tile and that will connect to your PMS, to your QuickBooks, and it will do daily syncs. So that's coming up actually in a couple of weeks. And so, but on top of that, if let's say I'm an operator and I have an accounting software that doesn't really, it's not as big as QuickBooks, let's say, then you can get a software developer or some tech resources to actually build on and add the add-on themselves, as long as that accounting software has the ability to do so. It's not a closed program. Then it is definitely possible. Yeah.
So the problem may not always be with the storage software. It could be from the accounting software side that's kind of blocking it as well.
Exactly right. Yeah. I use the analogy of this bonnets of the cars, with sort of getting the spark plugs and just sort of being able to spark plugs. Maybe that's a British saying. The
Bonnets are British.
The bonnets, yeah.
Bonnet is the hood.
Bonnet is, I'm mixing. Yeah, but
Yeah.
But to be able to kind of connect the two easily, if you can open it
Yeah.
up, and then then it works
That's cool.
both ways.
Yeah, and ensuring that you can reconcile between the two, and each software package is different, and there's very sophisticated accounting software that's very modern, has good interaction, and then there's others that are not as so the interfaces are not as robust.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what the integration is and what's being done in the FMS system, or if you have a third-party accounting system, how we
Okay.
get information between that.
Yeah, Lisa, great question. If you want to put in the comment section what accounting software you use, we may be able to give a little bit more specific context. Scott, Warren asked this question early on in the episode, but
Okay.
I think it's a solid. So you may not see it on your screen, but I'll ask it here. It's pretty solid. What is the likelihood of a larger PMS, property management system, the larger PMS providers becoming less flexible with their APIs for items like websites, locks, tenant insurance, etc., in order to incentivize current customers to utilize their offering as their offering grows, as opposed to shopping the marketplace, right? Will APIs be slower, or will they be charged for example, or become completely non-existent? Any takers or hot takes on that question? Scott, great question, by the way.
Mhm.
I mean, I can take that one from our perspective. I mean, our intent is to make APIs as open and robust as possible to be able to integrate partners. Whether or not they're charged for, that really depends on a couple of things. One is what's the robustness of the API and cost to manage that API, as well as maintaining that API with whatever that partner that you're connecting to. You require a lot of testing and coordination with other vendors to make sure that they're operating well, and therefore they require some level of charge to be able to maintain that over time. So it really just depends, but the intent is at a high level for us to be an open system and to be able to offer flexibility to our customers. And in some cases, we offer basic APIs and integrations for free. In other cases, they come at some fee or cost that goes with those. But it's not always just the cost of the data. It's supporting that integration with another partner, right, as well.
Yeah. Steve, as a platform
Yeah.
itself, care to speak to that?
Absolutely. So, as we just touched on, I think that, there is a lot of cost involved in keeping that infrastructure in place. It has been our thought that, we want to keep it as open as possible and also invite as many partners we can as possible. We currently are charging for that. But there are a lot of expenses around that. And you also have partners that are using it more than others, as well. Which actually can up those costs. I would say freedom of choice is the best way to go. Having the ability to integrate with, we have, a lot of integrations throughout industry. So having that freedom of choice and the partners you want to choose based on your needs within your business is key. And keeping that open is our current mindset on it.
Okay.
Love that.
Bill Hoffman asked a question that I think deserves a little bit of attention.
I like it. I like it.
It seems that most PMS systems are focused on new rentals, payments, top of funnel activity, that kind of thing. Is there going to be a focus at some point on field services, audits of the facilities, the walkthroughs, the real-time move outs, brand standards, overlocks, that kind of thing? So, instead of having to walk through the property with a clipboard and a printed report, making it a little more user-friendly, again, for the managers to be able to utilize the software instead of having to run back into the office a gazillion times and compare things, having real-time information on their tablet, on their phone, that sort of thing. When is that going to get a little bit more focus?
I'll say from our perspective, it's a huge focus as we look at our roadmap for this next year, ensuring that we're putting more and more, ensuring that it's mobile friendly first, that we've got what you need on the tablet. And so moving towards is everything that you can get on your desktop, on a browser, works on a tablet, so you're not having to go back to the office. I think that's a core tenet of anything that we build moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. And Melissa, I think this one ties back to kind of what you brought up a couple times, but really like thinking about it from the manager's perspective, not just the owners. And what do the managers do every single day? What screens are they going to click and touch on every single day? And then making sure then, to Jason's point, that they show up perfectly on a phone or on a tablet, and just making it everything we can do to kind of make it a more seamless experience that caters to the people who are actually on the ground every day doing these same tasks every day.
Yeah.
There's some interesting sorry.
Go ahead, Zach.
There's some interesting technology around that's used in car sales, where you can phone up and you can get through to a sales rep and they can be, they can have goggles and sort of kind of lenses and show you around the car. And so I was sort of encroaching a little bit onto the future of tech, but I can see that being quite an interesting kind of play into, how do you sort of, for the customer's perspective, and also from a facilities manager, can you have them lenses? Can they be walking through, one person walking through, and then other people in a central location can view what they're seeing on the facility on the ground, and same for customers as well. So that's kind of an interesting sort of tech that we could see future.
I was just going to mention, we do have an ability to do a walkthrough right now, and it does have a lot of, you can actually take a tablet with you and actually do the walkthrough on site. As everyone knows, kind of a lot of these facilities don't have the best internet, so it'll actually sync once you get reconnected. So if you can still do your walkthrough, do everything you need to do, but then when you have an internet connection again, it'll sync that. Or if you do have a solid internet connection throughout the property, you can go to the tablet and walk through and make those changes currently.
So just to kind of, another follow-up question from this one, I guess. It's easy to see what the customer experience should look like, because we have all the examples from Amazon, all the TikTok, all the easy ways that we know customers should be able to make their purchases and do their online transactions. But how are you guys going about conversations with managers that are actually sitting behind the desk, processing these rentals, processing these payments, doing their walkthroughs and their audits to say, hey, how does this even work for you? What can we do to make this more user friendly? When you get a phone call in, how does this, and you're trying to, do a rental process over the phone, are the screens in a cohesive flow? Does it work? Should something be, reordered? Or how are you guys going about getting that information and having that line of communication for your operators?
It's a great question. So honestly, it's something we've actually we've started on. We're actually revamping our UI and UX and our platforms and the different products we offer. But it's an important one because making it as simple as possible for the operators to use. And we do see, with every software product use, you're going to work on enhancements throughout the life cycle of that product. But for us, it's been the last 8 months. It's been there's a lot of work that's already started on revamping the systems, make them more modern, make them more easy to use. And so I can say from our perspective, that's what we're doing to make it easier for the operators, is really just taking a look at the feedback we're getting from our customers that are using it. This is hard to navigate. This would be much simpler than this way. We do have core customer groups we're working with to get feedback from them on the improvements they'd like to make as well. But that's the efforts we're making within our products.
Anybody else have anything to add?
I work in we work in software, right? But I found it after COVID, I found it relatively difficult to sit at a desk all the time. So I also work in sales and I love speaking to people. So I try and get out there as much as possible, even if they're a customer of ours or not. I'll still go and visit and self-storage facilities, try and speak to the operators, try and ask questions and have site visits. And I kind of, it's a sort of a guilty pleasure of mine. So I can kind of use that data to then feed back to the product.
Yeah, and I think at Six Storage, we have a pretty unique opportunity in that Michelle, who owns our company, also has owned and operated facilities for 17 plus years. And so we feel very fortunate to be able to rely on people right within our immediate system, but always are looking to the feedback of all of our customers and finding ways to collect that too. But we do feel pretty fortunate that, we have managers right beside us all the time using our software and able to tell us, this is what I really could use every day, or this I do use, but it could be better in this way. So we feel very fortunate for that, and are always taking into account the feedback of the people who call in and talk to us each day, week, month, etc.
Love that. Yeah, no, having that inside baseball helps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Uh,
I think the thing
go,
that
Jason.
the thing that that I would add that we look at, so, we've implemented a lot of analytics into our platform over the last couple of years, and we look at ways that we can reduce the number of clicks and automate tasks. So one of the things that we always struggle with is you get great customer feedback of, I'd like to have these configuration options or these configuration options. That can lead to more options and more clicks. And so now stepping back and looking at how do we reduce the number of clicks? How do we, give them the flexibility through that configuration options, but then actually look at ways that we can reduce the number of clicks or automate processes. Once they've defined what that is, you're just asking the specific questions and automating and streamlining that process. I think there continues to be this trade-off between configurability and optionality, but at the same time, how do you make sure that that's leading to an efficient and effective workflow? So
I love that.
clicks, yeah.
A running joke we've got between our product team here is for every new button we add, we have to take away 2 buttons. So, so if you want that feature, what 2 are we removing? Because Jason, I mean, as you know, when you have a product that's 5, 10, 20, 25 years old, you accumulate a lot of options and configurations and buttons, and it can feel like a spider web sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes testing really interesting, right?
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah. Let's not bring up testing. Now, Melissa, do we have a little time? We've still got to, I mean, these are some
Yeah, I
solid
think
questions.
so.
Yeah, speakers, y'all care if we go for a few more minutes to finish out these Q&A? Cool. So Marvin asks, and we talked about automation internally, like automating, manager tasks and owner tasks, but are there any new approaches to attracting tenants using software? Is there any automation that can help actually bring new customers to your website and to find your business? Any thoughts there?
I mean, I think from my perspective, as we look at I've been doing digital marketing and e-commerce now for 30 years. And I think one of the opportunities that I think we have to be able to continue to evolve the systems is being able to segment our audience and create more targeted offers and engagement with our customers to improve that overall experience, but then to be able to drive greater conversion rates. So once we identify that lead, how do we ensure that we effectively close that as quickly as possible? And I think that's where there's a lot of opportunity to make sure that we're getting the right message to the right person at the right time and getting them quickly and effectively through that process and converted. So I think there's new tools and unlock with data that allow us to really continue to tune and optimize that part of the acquisition process.
It's about finding a good partner as well, right? Someone who is a specialist in, say, SEO, that is, or Google Analytics, because Google can change their algorithm tomorrow, and you need someone who understands what impact that's going to have on your business, right? So that's also another thing, is kind of making sure you're on top of the waves of change that are coming from Google, from other big tech companies, to make sure that you're ahead of that curve.
Yeah, and I think reviews is this new emerging one that I know people are starting to pay attention to. But as we do on Sparefoot, we had done some consumer surveys of what and get feedback from them of what's playing into their decisions. And if I went back 2 years ago, we didn't really hear about reviews at all. But now you hear more about people are looking at reviews, online reviews, Google reviews, and so reputation management continues to be one of these new things that consumers are paying attention to increasingly.
Yeah, I love that. Melissa, do you see any other questions on your Q&A screen?
No, one popped up in the chat that Betty put in here. A way to flag previous problem customers. She mentioned that U-Haul has the ability to red flag, and the problem comes in where the tenant can, I guess, rent through the website without seeing the property manager. And so once they move in, kind of hard to get them to move back out. So is there a way to be able to red flag customers that you've had problems with in the past? But I guess the online piece kind of complicates that.
Can I start there?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
All right, so we a few years ago we created a do not rent list, and so that do not rent list checks address, checks for social, driver's license information, things that would be critical to do an online rental as well. So if they're on that do not rent list, they're excluded from being able to rent. And so we also make that available so that our partners that are working or building the websites can use that as well, so they can know that we can't rent that unit to that.
Neat.
To that.
Good. I like that. So it's tied to more than just their email address or something like that that they might use. Okay.
That's right, and it's also looks across your whole portfolio. So if you have 50 sites and they've rented multiple sites, or they've rented one of your property before and they come to rent another property, which happens, they can't rent because it checks that basic information first.
So do they just get like an error message saying, sorry, you've been excluded from the party?
It's more about contact the facility. Maybe usually we provide the facility phone number. They can reach out.
Okay. That's a nice way of doing it. Yeah. So like, don't tell me that I'm a loser. Just tell me.
But you probably already know it. I mean, come on.
Yeah. That's pretty.
You might
funny.
remind them that they rented previously.
Yeah.
I like that feature. That's really great.
Yeah. So Betty, great question. All right, I've got two more here in the Q&A, and then we'll do question of the week and let everyone go home. Alex Auger asks, hey, what about revenue management programs within the software? Can y'all talk about what options are available within the software? And is there any third-party vendors that do great revenue management that you'd recommend or suggest?
Who wants to take it?
I'd like to start quick. We do offer both an integrated revenue management tool within the software. Plus, we also integrate, Veritech solutions. Great, really good at revenue management aspect of running daily operations. But there's other partners, but those are the primary ones.
Yeah, I think there's there's what we do in the software, Veritech integrations to ensure that we're working well with third parties, and then there's we have enterprise and some customers where we provide APIs and integrations, so they do some optimization. There's been some, especially with machine learning and AI, some new capabilities that customers are using to optimize their revenue management capabilities. So it continues to, as we do surveys of what's the most important features and functions for people, that typically is pretty high on the list.
Yeah, kind of the predictive analytics piece, to be able to connect that Power BI or whatever business intelligence with your analytics, which is built into the PMS. That's really interesting. And yeah, one thing we're seeing as well is if you're lots of private equity companies are entering the space, buying up lots of different facilities. They actually require quite robust reporting information, and so you can sort of provide them with access, different type of access to your platform, your PMS, which is specifically for those reporting, for those investors that need it on a certain monthly basis, to make sure that you're on track. So we're seeing a lot more of that flexibility there from especially investors that are in operators or have a portfolio of operators. Yeah.
Good advice. Thanks, y'all. And then last question from the audience here. I think, Gary, you still might be in the audience. Gary, from this session, sounds like he's about to go sell his apartments and go buy self-storage. So, but man, thank you for joining us today, Gary. So Gary's question is like, hey, what words of advice, words of wisdom can you impart on someone just looking to get started in self-storage? And we'll go around the panel here. Alyssa, I'll start with you. What words of advice do you have for a guy like Gary who's about to get into self-storage?
Yeah. I think my immediate first thought, kind of what we talked about in the lobby before this, was what's everyone's favorite trade show? And I think trade shows are just an awesome avenue for anybody new to the industry to come and just see. Before I was involved in this industry, I never even thought about it. And then you go to one of those trade shows and you see these huge booths and tons of vendors and so many attendees, and you realize that it really is a very robust industry that just continues to grow. So I honestly think that that's one of the best tools for just learning the industry. Stop by. We want you to come to our booth and we want you to talk to us. Stop by every booth if you can and learn a little bit about what somebody does. And I think that's just a great way get a good grasp on what we all do.
Great advice, Alyssa. Jack, we'll go to you.
I'd say my two thoughts come to mind is keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, like just that you don't need to overcomplicate things, especially if you're starting off, And then my other piece of advice would be to trial before you buy, have 3 tabs open. You've got different trial accounts from different softwares that you've shortlisted, do the same processes in each, and then figure out which ones works for you at the right price point.
What a great advice, man. Like,
idea.
yeah, do it yourself. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you look at what's most important to your business. So as you think about those workflows, what are the things that, back to what Alyssa said, every single day, what are the things that they're doing, and making sure that that's as seamless and easy as possible for your team. I think sometimes people get hung up on some advanced functionality and other pieces. If you're just starting out, stick to the core basics. What are the things that need to get done in order to be able to run your business efficiently? And how do you get that all done without having to map out, go into a bunch of different systems to make that happen?
Solid advice. I love that. And then last but not least, Steve, what would you advise our friend Gary here?
Yeah, I would say along the same lines of trade shows, but getting involved with your state association, really.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. You just need to do that. And so we recommend anyone that's new to it, reach out to your local state association, get familiar, start attending those meetings. It's important. Then you can go to the other more national shows if you want to learn more and have more training sessions.
Absolutely.
Get involved, y'all. Man, thank you. Y'all are awesome. We're about to get to our last segment of the week here, which is our question of the week. But first off, thank you for being here, y'all. We went way over time and we only got to less than half of the agenda. So thank you for your expertise and your graciousness. But yeah, my question of the week here is now you can speak to your own platform that you represent. What's one upcoming software update or new tech that you are most excited about? What's one upcoming feature or update that you're so stoked and you can't wait to tell the world about?
Come on, guys.
We have an enhanced kind of lead generation coming up, and we're going to showcase them at the SSA show. So we're excited about that.
Oh, nice.
We're about to capture those leads, and it's I think it's very thorough and kind of how we put it together. So we're excited to showcase that at the SSA show.
I'll swing by the booth to check it out.
Okay, awesome. Please do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Lisa.
No, you go.
Yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves on what we're going to announce at the show next week and get myself in trouble. But
is Chuck on this call?
Well, Jason said this was going to happen.
But I mean, we're super excited about tiered pricing, some of the digital merchandising stuff that we're doing. But some of the things that you'll hear from us that we talk about over the next 60 days is we're excited about getting into the auction space and how we can kind of bring that more tightly together with the rest of our offerings to make that more seamless of how you're moving tenants in, and then as they're going through the delinquency process, effectively getting those units empty and ready to re-rent again. So we're excited about bringing storage auctions into the family and how we're going to be able to integrate that experience. And so more to come there as we move forward with that acquisition.
Okay, exciting.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't have one specific feature, but we have a really robust development roadmap, and we have a lot of new and great integrations coming for SIX storage. So we're just excited to announce those integrations one by one as we get them integrated to our software.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. And Jack, last but not least, man.
Yeah, so I think the add-ons marketplace for us is a big one, right? It's that this having a marketplace where you can just connect all your systems together on a simple UI, tiles, and just being able to connect everything together will be is a big one for us. I'd say from an industry perspective, robotics. I'd love to see what they're doing in Asia, in the US right now. Like there's some incredible robots that are moving these units around, which some of that kind of tech, I think, later down the line is really interesting.
It's only 2024, man. You gotta give us some time to adjust over here.
I know. It's less software though. I don't know. Maybe. Oh no, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, no, I've seen some of that, like in Thailand and in Vietnam. There's not a lot of storage there, but like they're really taking it serious. The operators are. There's one family. I'm from Vietnam, and so I follow to some degree some Viet news. And there's a family who I guess they have a ties in the UK and in America. But anyways, there's a brand there that's doing some really cool things that we're not ready yet here.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's really fun.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, y'all, thank you for coming out today. If anyone in the audience had follow-up questions or just wants to get a hold of you, what's the easiest and best way?
Yeah, I would say for me, the easiest, simplest way is marketing@sixstorage.com. Reach out at any point and be happy. They'll come straight to me. Happy to chat.
And I'm just jason.palmer@storable.com.
Easy.
I'm Steve at storagemanor.com. Reach out, please do.
Please do. And Jack?
And Jack at storganize.com. That's it.
Right on. Easy peasy. Well, y'all, thank you so much for coming out. This show, along with all of the shows, are available on the podcasts. We'll be posting the video version of this sometime in the next few days. Check out the Gabfocus podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. It's not just the live episodes that we host on there. Melissa and Josh do a fantastic job of bringing guests on that tell their origin story. We mentioned, I believe, Jack earlier or James earlier from Life Switch. He was, he was on recently, and it was a great session. So check it out. And I think Joe, you asked about where you can talk about self-storage with your fellow self-storage nerds. The Gabfocus Facebook channel is one such place, and I put a link to it earlier. Join that. Have good conversations there. And I think Rachel said it too. There's a gazillion other Facebook groups. My Facebook feed is only self-storage Facebook group stuff. And then baby pictures. But hang out with us next month, y'all. We're gonna have a fantastic session on exceptional customer service tips for managers. I think, of course, this is not going to be a good show for managers to come and share your advice and your best practices, but also owners to be like, hey, these are things that I can train my team, maybe things I can train myself. Oftentimes owners are not the best at customer service because they don't do it every day. So this is a great show, I think, not only for managers, but it's a good one for owners and operators too. So come join us. And I think every one of us in this room, or most of us in this room, will be in Vegas here in the next couple weeks. Come visit all the booths, like Alyssa said, talk to every vendor, ask every question, and walk away learning some new things. Thank you for coming out, everybody.
Thank you.
See y'all later.
Thanks,
Melissa.
Thanks,
See you soon.
Thanks.
See y'all.